And so I think these are the minds that they're looking to perhaps get some feedback from about what are the issues that need to be tackled. And I think that, just a couple things about the funding formula. Look, it's they did the work back in 1990 or so. And they've made adjustments, and they've made probably two, I think, primary adjustments since that time. One was to address vocational needs, and then they did the Student Opportunity Act, which was meant to address the needs of students in your gateway communities in urban areas. Right now, though, there's a large contingent of districts with towns such as Rutland, Paxton, Holden, where they are being asked, because of this old formula, you need to foot more of the bill. And then especially in the context, and I know you asked this question, I'm going to talk about it a little bit, when districts fall into hold harmless. And, it hasn't been certified officially, but I would tell you that this year we anticipate still to be in hold harmless. And so those are things that are definitely going to continue to impact the budget. One of the things about hold harmless that I think we want you to know is, since we've been in it for a couple of years, the impact on our Chapter 70 isn't going to be felt as great as it was when, 1 year we had almost a historic increase of almost like getting $3.5 million. And then all of a sudden we went down to very little. I think if they fund hold harmless districts the same way they did last year, and they may not initially, but I think our thought is they will eventually, it means that our Chapter 70 will go up probably 2%, maybe up to 2.5%. All right, which doesn't have the impact it's had in years past. It's not a good situation. I think we want to continue to try to get out of hold harmless, because that's when, especially the way the formula works, that's when we, could see a bigger increase in our Chapter 70 funds. But I think that as we've gone into this a couple of years, the actual overall impact on the district and the towns won't be quite as severe, because we're not building off of a large increase in Chapter 70. I think the piece I'd want folks to know about hold harmless, the reason why it's so frustrating for the district, and I think for the towns, hold harmless was created for districts that were losing a lot of students over a large period of time. And so a lot of these towns that have been in hold harmless, they may have been in hold harmless for decades. What's hurting us so much is that the fluctuations in our students really aren't that great. It started for us, I think, 3 years ago when we went down 60 students. Okay, it was like something like 0.1% for something like that. It was of our student population, but the impact was the same as if we had lost, 1,000. And so that's the other piece. And it's not as much as what they're looking at the state level, but we really do feel like that's another thing that they need to look at. It's almost like hold harmless is an all or nothing proposition. It doesn't matter if you're just losing, like, I don't think we've ever lost up to 200 students in a year, and we're a district that usually fluctuates between 6,500 and 7,000. Yet the impact on us in our funding has been severe. And so we definitely believe that that's the other thing that we really want to advocate for the state to look at. Because again, when that happens, and we're very thankful, please know, we are so thankful for the support of the towns when that happens, because unfortunately, when we haven't gotten that Chapter 70 funding, we've asked more of the towns. And that's been one of the primary drivers in terms of what our budget increase has been due to. But we also know, and we know that's why you're talking to us now, it's not something that is tenable over the long term for the town, or any of our towns, or should be asked of the towns. And I think we want you to know we understand that. And so the big drivers we have is definitely we still need to look at, the budget formula. But in terms of local context, right, we're negotiating, and this is where we were, and I apologize for arriving the way I did. We're negotiating right now with the teachers, and Michelle can share the data. I think it's 80 to 85% of our budget is salaries, and the teachers represent.
I want to say I'd have to look it up again. I feel like there's 17 million out of our budget. So when you start thinking with the salaries.
Salaries are 70 million or just the teachers?
Just the teachers,
The salaries overall,
60 to 70.
I
I
wonder
have
what the
to,
total is. It's gotta be 90 million or something.
oh, of salaries? Oh, yeah, it's.
When you
it's
took
almost-
everybody all together, it's gotta be up there.
Yes.
So that's one that we've identified, and we're in the midst of, we just started negotiations today. And so that's one we'll keep an eye on, and that will have an impact on our budget. The other one is insurance. Insurance, and Michelle was explaining a little bit today about some of the new medications and the impact on insurance companies. I think we're aware, I mean, I got notified even, UMass Memorial and Blue Cross Blue Shield are trying to negotiate and having impact. So that's something that we'll continue to watch very closely. We've largely, and I give Michelle a lot of credit around this, have been the beneficiaries. We haven't had high use of our insurance products. We've gotten actually pretty good rates in comparison to a lot of places. But we don't know what the impact is going to be with some of these things. And we actually probably had increased insurance that would not have been quite so large if I think we were unfortunately impacted by the companies being used by so much other entities that they spread it out more than just based on your personal usage. But the other thing, and we will continue to do this, is trying to advocate for members we have a PAC, to consider lower cost options. And Michelle was able to get them to accept one of those plans last year or make that available to employees. And we'll continue to advocate for that. But insurance is another budget driver that we're watching closely. And right now it's really hard to tell exactly where that will go. So
I'm gonna throw transportation out there, so we definitely know it's a 5.5% increase. The other thing is too, our reimbursement is not gonna be as hefty as it was, because I don't know if you guys remember when I started a couple of years ago, we did not have our end of year report done, so when we were doing our reimbursement, it was really low. And I never had changed it, so we got that money. I used that this fiscal year, which means I don't have as big of an expense because I used a reimbursement. So I used that this fiscal year. So when they're looking at our reporting for this fiscal year, our transportation costs are about $1 million less. So our reimbursement's going to be a little bit smaller, and our increase is there. So that transportation piece is gonna. You'll see a difference in that.
a lot of that wasn't great news, but there's hope. And I'll tell you a couple of things that we feel like, puts hopefully the towns in a better position than in years past. And I think, again, our thanks in terms of towns passing our budgets, but also allowing us to put some better financial practices in place. We do feel like we're in a better position in terms of excess and deficiency. And we do feel like we're going to have the ability to offer some potential revenue offsets, more so than last year. Last year, I think we were able to give about $500,000 of E&D. We anticipate being able to recommend more. And I think that's one thing I just want to be clear is Michelle and I present the budget, school committee approves it. But what we're telling you now is that our intent is to put forth more E&D than we did last year. And hopefully that will help offset more than we've been able to do in the past. I think we still want to be careful, right? We had our E&D at one point, it was less than 1%, which isn't a good number to be at, and really doesn't protect the towns if we had a cataclysmic situation in terms of our finances. We're trying to make sure we're maintaining 2%. But I think
What's recommended?
well, best practice, probably between 3 and 4. You can go up to 5. And so, but I think we feel, and we've been trying to do this, share some of the,
I understand.
yeah. And so, I think we're looking at 2 as a number that we feel like protects the towns and protects the district, but then also, gives some protection in this budget cycle and allows some more revenues that, we weren't able to provide last year. And so seeing that as a potential positive in terms of an offset. I think the other one where we're in a better position this year than we have been in years past is circuit breaker. Circuit breaker is the mechanism where we get money back for special education services that we've been provided. The district was running a very risky game in the past in that we were putting forth money that we hadn't gotten back yet. And so we were kind of rolling the dice and hoping like we're going to get this money. And we've been able to move more towards, we're not there yet, but we've been able to move more towards the model that's recommended by DESE, which is you put the money forth that you already got. And so it's almost like you operate in 1 year, but then you're also being able to say, hey, we've got this chunk of money, and it usually is a more substantial offset than you can make. And so we're not where we want to be with it, but I think we also, much like E&D, even though we may not be where we want to be, we're in a better position to increase circuit breaker as well as a revenue offset. And those are two things that Michelle and I have talked about already. And we are going to be putting forth in our recommended budget to school committee. And again, can't tell you it's going to pass with that, but our goal and our approach is in that first iteration of that budget is to increase both of those offsets more than we provided the last couple of years. And so we're hoping that gives a little bit of relief to the towns. Because what it looks like as of now is that we'll be in hold harmless again. And although our hope is the state will make even greater adjustments than in the past, I think the only thing we can be fairly confident of is they're going to do what they did last year. And even then, I just want to caution people, they're probably not going to do that instantly. You know, Michelle said to me, every year, usually it starts around, first year we were in this, I think it started at nothing. And then it went to $30 and then it went to 75.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I think you're right. It
Yeah.
went up twice.
Yeah. And then this last year,
150 or something.
yeah.
This
right.
year it did, but I think the
Yeah.
first year they started at 30 and then they might have went to 75 and then they went to like 105 or something.
And then I think this last year,
This year it started
75.
at 75
And then went to
150.
150. I think again, I think we can be fairly confident we're gonna get to 150 again. I'd be shocked if the state didn't, because I think there are so many towns at this point being impacted by this. Like I said, 2/3 of the districts in the towns in the state are in the same situation, or at least they were last year. And again, what we're looking at, if they do that, is our Chapter 70 will go up 2% to maybe 2.5%, which isn't great. And so I'm not trying to sell it that's a great thing, but I think it's we can prepare for it. And it also helps us when we're looking at those other revenue sources and other things we're looking at that, try to make a better, more informed decision about, hey, we think this is what we can put into the budget to help support the towns. And so happy to ask any questions. The other two things that I think were put on the list for us to comment on, before, like I said, we're happy to answer any questions. The potential shift towards municipals, and I tell you, like, that's what these listening sessions are about. Is I think for multiple reasons, especially a town like Rutland, that has new properties and the housing market's been so robust. The state looks at that in the calculations they make, and it's not correct, but they're saying instantly like, oh, you can pay more of your minimal local contribution. And you're really getting hit on that. My guess is between 2 and 2.5% every year. And that's just a huge problem. And I think it's a huge problem for all the reasons I said before. One is they're not capping what they're asking in communities. So I always say when I'm in Sterling and Princeton, they treat those towns the same as they treat Weston and Cohasset and Cambridge, okay, and Lexington, like that. So the wealthiest of the wealthy communities in Massachusetts, they are equating those towns with. And when they do this, when they give you the increases, they're trying to get Rutland to that level as well. And basically they're making a calculation that you can afford between 1% and 2.5% every year when they're looking at that. And that's where I think the big inequity is in terms of the municipal formula and what they're asking of the towns, because that's what's happening with the potential shift towards municipals. One of the reasons. The other reason is us being in hold harmless, which so many districts are. And when you don't get an increase in Chapter 70 of over, like, even though we're like, look, it's still 2 or 2.5%, which is better than nothing. But when it's not 3-4%, right, then the state's not picking up that part of the tab and it's getting shifted back to the towns. And that's one of the things that, I think we all acknowledge is not fair and very difficult. And then I think the third factor about the formula is the fact that they're not properly saying what it takes to educate our students. And the problem with that is then we're picking up the difference from what the state says it costs to educate. So the state share of Chapter 70 is based on a far lower number of what it takes to educate students than it should be. And like, I want to be careful because I guess I got Worcester mad at me, and I know the folks get mad at me when I say this. And I'm not against vocational education at all. And I came from Leominster. I'm not against gateway communities. But what those cities and those schools are being funded at, okay? Our budget, again, and please know, I am not taking shots at vocational education, but if we were given their per pupil that the state says they charge, okay? Our budget, we figured it out last year, would be about $30 million more than it is now. If they just set that, and we're not asking to be set at that limit, and we're not saying that would be reasonable. But I think that lets you know what the differences really are. And that's why it impacts us so much. And it's why, people sometimes call it discretionary or operational spending. It's why that number is large for the district, because our base is so low, and inappropriately so, we would say. When you're the bottom 25, they're really not accounting. I mean, like, why are our kids different? And I think that's what frustrates me. Our kids have needs too, and I just don't think that's captured in the current formula. And so those are the big three that we see with that. And so I'm glad they're looking at it. If you ask me honestly, do I think they're going to make any grand changes in the foundational formulas here? No. I think one of the things traditionally we're up against is these are pretty powerful voices, right? Vocational education has a strong voice. I think your urban communities have a strong base. Your uber wealthy communities out by 128 have a very strong base in support. And so that's where it's a challenge, right? Is even when we're advocating, and I even though I think our representatives have tried to help us and had that out there, a lot of times it hasn't carried through to the greater legislature at large, and there hasn't been, I think, as much of an urgency as you would expect when 2/3 of your towns are in a very similar position to what we're operating with. So I think that's an overview of that. And then I think folks had asked if our proposed budget, or if we thought the increase would be around 8%. That's certainly not our goal. And I think what's hard is, I think one of the things that Michelle went through as an exercise in terms of what we've estimated is if we maintain level service, so if we don't, try not to impact kids at all and make adjustments to our staff or other things. What we've estimated is every year our budget increase will be between 4.5% and 5.5%. Okay. I think what's the unknown is, like, last year, the budget increase was 5.82 and Rutland ended up at 6.4. And that was because when we got the extra Chapter 70, we passed it on to the towns. And so we know that, and I think we're probably fairly confident that that's still an accurate range. Would you agree?
Yeah, as far as like
Level
what
service.
our budget will be, but the big unknown is how you guys get calculated. I wish we knew that earlier on, but we don't.
So you don't think there'll be any major impacts with your contracts you guys are settling right now?
Well,
We're starting negotiation. If I'm honest,
I
like,
can't talk about that,
No, no, no.
we haven't talked about anything yet, but
and so what I'd say because it's a good question. We're coming off a really good contract with the teachers, where our increases in COLAs for this last contract were 2%, 2.25%. And the last year it was at 2.75%. But with that last increase, we actually got an additional day of work. And so that's not, what the marketplace has been across the state right now. And I think that's why, it's one of the budget drivers for us is, we're always going to try to advocate, and the school committee honestly has done a very good job trying to advocate. I think what we always try to share with the teachers and what that contract's allowed us to do is we have been able to add some positions in places where we haven't before. You go to a NACOG and they have 2 interventionists this year that they didn't have otherwise, and they really needed them. We find full-time counseling positions over at Glenwood. That's something that had to happen. It didn't have it. But you asked the question, we're not sure. I think school committee takes the responsibility seriously. But I think we have to concede we were coming off a pretty good contract in terms of the towns and administration with the teachers.
Okay.
And we'll look at that.
That's
Um,
fair.
The piece I'd say to you, in terms of my role as superintendent, what we're trying to do. If you ask me about things I always try to present, I always try to talk to the school committee and when I come around to all of you about, hey, this is what we're trying to do to make the district stronger. What we'd love to do is look at middle school. So you look at a school like Central Tree. And Central Tree, we just shared. If you look at our class sizes, Central Tree's class sizes are larger than a lot of our schools. And we're looking to build some equity. I think the other thing we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that if you go to Central Tree, you have the same opportunities you have if you go to Mount View, right? And for other schools as well. So that's the work we're trying to do this year. Not saying necessarily that's going to involve additional positions. I'm just letting you know that's what we're really trying to concentrate on. And then the other piece we're really trying to concentrate on is special education. Because when you look at our data, the kids who are struggling the most are kids who are on special education program plans. And then the other thing I'd want to point out, and this is one thing that we're trying to do a better job at, is and I think this is one of the things that all of our communities that people, not that the communities themselves, but people outside the communities don't recognize is about 18% of our families struggle financially and they're food insecure. And I don't think, we've always kind of done a great job supporting those families and kids. And if you look at our data, those are the other kids who are suffering. Those are the other kids who we don't do as good a job with educating. And so we're trying to make sure that we're having the best systems in place to make sure we're reaching those kids as well. And that's one of the reasons why, if you look at a NACOG, we have these new positions that are working with kids who are struggling. So you don't have to be in an IEP or you don't have to be in a special education plan to get support. Ideally, you're intervening with the kids when they're in kindergarten, when they're in first grade, when they're in second grade. And so whatever their challenge is, they don't become bigger as they get older, which is never a good way to try to fix something. When the problem's big, it's going to cost you a lot more money. And so if you can intervene early and give them what they need, and honestly, a lot of the research will tell you that you get to kids early, it's incredible how resilient they are and how they can move on. And that doesn't mean we're not going to see all kids through. It is, though, kind of some of the work that we're continuing to focus on. And so those are things that you'll hear us talk about when we come to you and present. But our hope is, like I said, that we're not asking for what we've asked for in the past without offering revenue sources that are going to have that hopefully will offset some of those numbers. That will be our goal.
So when is the school committee retreat, so we can know how late it's gonna be for our budget?
Typically in January.
No one else will ask that
Yeah.
question. That's the piece that matters.
I think the hard thing for us is we don't get those chapter 70 numbers until
End of January.
No, I get it. I understand from you guys' point of view, the state's slow,
Yeah,
but
we do the budget retreat has been with the school committee has been end of January as well, hasn't it?
typically, yeah, I think we would shoot to do for the first couple weeks in January.
Okay.
And what I'd say to you all is, please know, we were very happy and we'd be happy to come back again. If you're like, well, hey, tell us more about this, or do you have updated numbers, or when is this official? I think one of the things we certainly want to do a good job of is being transparent, answering the hard questions, and we get them. And look, we understand we're a significant part of the town budget, and we understand that what we ask for can impact town services in other ways. And so we do feel like we should be accountable. So even though we may not have some of those numbers, if the thought is, hey, we want you to come back and we get some questions for you to answer, please know we're willing to do so. And just like, getting invited here, and certainly we're happy to answer as many questions as we can right now. We certainly are willing to do that.
You can come to the budget retreat too.
Yes,
We had Holden reps come to our FinCom people who came to the budget retreat. So they would hear firsthand, like what the schools were asking for, what the individual departments were looking for. We gather all that information. We'll meet with every department and then put together something to give to the school committee so they know, like, we're not making this up. Here's all your information that's coming from all of the various sources. So here's.
Do you send something to the TAs or the FinCom chairs? Let
To
them know
invite?
what it is and inviting them?
No, but we can.
yeah.
It's not like, I mean, it's not like you could participate in it, but you could certainly be there and listen and watch and, hear what's being proposed,
Couple of questions. Thank you for taking your evening to do this. Decreased enrollment. I understand it's not a lot, but it's continual. Where's that enrollment dropping off? Is it not new kids replenishing the graduates? Is it
So, yeah.
private?
We're actually doing a study right now to try to determine that. And it's a good question. And I think, I can't give you the hard data right now because we don't have the numbers yet, but that's something like I'd be happy to come back and talk to you all about or just send to you. What I've heard preliminarily is that the percentage of kids we lost between 8th grade and the high school this year is less than it had been the last couple of years. And it had been on an incline. However, all of our towns declined, I believe, with the exception of Princeton. And so all the towns had fewer students, which is interesting because I think a lot of what we hear specifically in Rutland and Holden is there's a lot of homes and potentially population growth. And so I do think that's coming, and I do feel like eventually we're going to be out of kind of this hold harmless regardless of what the state does. But that hasn't been the recent trend. And so one of the things we're doing this year is we've tried to do a couple things around being prepared if there is an influx in population, but then also try to have a better understanding because it's been a slow trajectory of losing students over the last probably 10 years, right? Why? And I think one of the things that we started, I think 2 or 3 years ago, we partnered with Central Mass Regional Planning Commission, and they actually got some grant support, and then the district paid for a population study. So we've got population data for all of the towns over a 10-year, at the time, 3 years ago, a 10-year period. So we can start to anticipate, okay, what does the growth look like? It's not perfect, but it's been fairly accurate so far. That went well. And then what we ended up doing is continuing to partner with Central Mass, and we actually are currently under phase 2 of that program. And again, we were able to actually, to their credit, they actually write the grant and help us with that. 2-part. One was the facility studies for all the district's facility studies, including the schools in Rutland. And another part of it is to reach out and try to talk to families that have decided not to send their students to our schools and see if we can get some information as to why. I think traditionally it's been a couple of things. I think we do have families that traditionally when they get to 8th grade, send their kids to private schools. And that's something that, again, I think we want to try to find out why and see if there are things that can make the high school experience more attractive. I think the other thing, though, that's happened is there's been an increase in the number of students who are pursuing vocational education. And so both our numbers at Bay Path and at Monty Tech, a greater percentage of students are going to pursue those opportunities. And I think before in a lot of our towns, people never reached their cap. And I think for a lot of our communities now, they are at the cap. And so, that's more kids are looking at that education and it appeals to them. So the other thing that we're trying to do is ask ourselves that question, why do kids want that experience. And there are a couple of things inherent in a vocational education that are excellent, right? Some things that I look at and go, that's a pretty cool one. One is that kids can apply their learning, all right? And I think, I don't know about you, but at school, there were many times, right? You know, I'm a superintendent. Not that I was the world's greatest student, but you know, you sit there and you go, why am I doing this? Right? And you don't naturally maybe have a connection. I think good teachers always do make that connection, but it's hard sometimes where kids don't know why they're learning things. And one of the things that's natural in vocational education is you see the value in it, you know. And so not only do you see the value, but then you also get to apply it. And so they're working on projects and they understand why the measurements or decimals or whatever they're working on, why that's important. So they can apply, you know, whatever the theory or experiential thing that they're learning about and then actually put it into practice. So the other thing you'll hear us talking about more when we talk about the schools and the high school specifically is we're doing a lot more what they call pathways. Okay, and what pathways are their kind of non-traditional ways that the kids can get educated in areas they're interested in. All right, so we're doing some around education, we're doing some around health, we're going to be expanding some in business. And so the thought is that if kids are interested in those areas, they can now take courses that are going to help them in that. And so, because it makes a difference, right? And if you can adjust the content kids are learning and they're like, oh, this makes sense to me because I'm interested in this. The likelihood of them doing well and getting something out of it is higher. The other piece of that that's really kind of cool that's happening now too is we're also expanding or trying to expand our what they call dual enrollment or early college programs. And what that means is students can take courses at the high school and get credit for it that they can apply to college. And so what that's going to do for a lot of our kids is they're going to be able to say, go, if they decide to go on to get an advanced degree, they'll actually have credits when they graduate from Wachusett they can put towards that. And that's advantageous in a couple of ways. A, college becomes less expensive, right? Because one of the purposes of this program is to make college accessible to kids who maybe didn't think it was an option for them, whether it be money or sometimes because the kids didn't think they had the ability. And so by giving them and saying, look, what do you mean you can't do this? You know, you did this here. You know, we're hopeful if that's a pathway or what a child is interested in, they'll have the confidence and more of the means to actually pursue that. And so we're hoping, right, as we expand that type of programming, both of those programs, the kids are going to see like, oh, hey, Wachusett, that's a place I want to be. I think we're doing things too. You know, one of the things that the vocationals have done very well with the money they get is to advertise really well. And, you know, for years now, they've shown up in pretty nice buses and taken our kids on pretty incredible tours on pretty fantastic facilities, right? And so what we're doing now, and it's actually going to happen the next couple of weeks here, Mike Pratt, who's the principal at the high school, was talking about is actually we're doing something similar. And we'll be having trips to bring middle school kids up to the high school. So Central Tree students will come to the high school and they'll see the opportunities there, you know, and they'll see that there's opportunities around computer science if they're interested in it. And, you know, there's some things that Wachusett offers that the vocationals can't, you know, and like the arts programs and some of the other options that you have at Wachusett, they don't exist at some of the vocational schools. So, you know, it's good for the kids to see like there are some real advantages to coming to a Wachusett as well. And so those are a few things that we're doing proactively in addition to trying to say, okay, is there something we missed? You know, because that off the top of our head are the things that we would want to improve that maybe make kids more interested in coming to our schools. But it may be something that we haven't even thought of, you know, and that's why we're also trying to do some of the outreach. I'll be honest with you, the outreach has been challenging. Because you're trying to identify people who have left the district and seeing if it'll take some time to tell you where they left, but we're trying and Central Mass is trying. So those are some of the things we're trying to do. I think the other piece I'll share with y'all is that's part of the work we're trying to do at middle school too, right? Is like, it drives me crazy. You know, you want to take German, you can take German, but you have to grow up in Rutland. You want to take French, you can take French, but you got to grow up and you have to grow up in Holden, right? And so one of the things we're desperately trying to do is like, hey, how about you can take one of these no matter where you live, right? And so looking at, are there options that if you're a Rutland student and probably not going to be able to do it in person and look for other options, and there's a lot of stuff we'd have to do to make that happen. But why can't kids have that experience? And then I think one of the other things we're doing is looking at like, we're gonna try to have German 1 at the high school next year. Because some kids who took German here for 2 years can't take German at the high school if they don't qualify or are found eligible for German 2. And so like, what's that? You know, and so you know, we're trying to re-implement German 1. So we're really trying to look at a programming and ask ourselves the questions about, does this really make sense? Does this make us more attractive to students who want to come here, and try to put those things in place. And then also make the middle school experience more common for people, and to a point where kids are excited to come to the high school and see the possibilities there, which admittedly, I'll tell you, we haven't done a great job at. But I also would say the high school is putting a lot of work into, and I feel like they really are trying to do a lot of that stuff to, you know, we want to become current. We want to look at the advantages some other types of education have put in. And like on top of all of it, I'll tell you too, we honestly want to have more AP courses, you know, because if I think, you know, that's the traditional way kids have gotten college credit. And like, we're not, as much as we want to be present and current in terms of the opportunities and types of learning we offer kids, we also want to make sure that if kids have a traditional academic track, they can get whatever they want there. And so you want to take AP Physics? Yeah, no problem. AP Bio, you know, those opportunities still exist and have been one of the strengths of the school, and we want to make sure we continue that too. So I just want to make sure it's not like we're trying to get rid of things that were successful. I think we are trying to say yes, and again, maybe reach the kids that we haven't done a great job reaching before, you know, and making sure that they can find a home if they come to the high school as well.
I've had a number of residents inquire about what they saw at the beginning of it in August about the school supplies being.
Mhm.
And I don't have an answer to that.
Yeah.
So we're, you know, because we had heard that we're down where we have to be, we're not doing anything extra or special, and then, you know, we get alerted on Facebook that, I mean, parents are all great when people that don't have kids in school is like, okay, there's nothing we're subsidizing.
Yeah, I'd say that my view on education is kids should be able to go to school and get everything they need to learn. And I talked a little bit earlier about the kids who were challenged here. And, you know, really 18%, but I mean, and it's rough math, and so forget it. But basically 1 out of 5 of our kids don't have the means to support their education or have the same means as other kids. We're an extremely fee dependent district. And I know it doesn't feel like that way to people, but we feed people to death. Charge for parking. We charge for athletics. You know, you pay, the kids pay if they want to be part of, I think Central Tree drama, you know, they're paying a fee. And so we're trying to, and especially those kids, and especially when we're not meeting the needs of those kids, right? And then putting another burden on their family, we felt it was appropriate to make sure kids got what they need when they walk through the door. The other thing we saw is some parents in some classrooms were being asked more than $100 in supplies to be out, which honestly isn't necessary. You don't need $100 for your experience in school. You need, you know, paper, pens. Some cases you might need a scientific calculator or some of the courses, but I think parents were being asked to pay too much, and it was very inequitable about where they paid it. And so you had some schools that were kind of being funded for different programs. We still struggle with this. You know, there are schools that have more computers because their PTOs have bought computers for the school. And so one of the things we're desperately trying to achieve is it doesn't matter where you go to school in Wachusett, you have the appropriate experience and you have a good experience. And so it wasn't, and Michelle, and we can come back with you and share what that cost the district. But I will tell you that it's an attempt to, part of those kids not learning, it's certainly because it's not because of their intelligence. And it's not because their parents don't care. It's because they're experiencing something that a lot of our families aren't. And I think part of us as a school district needs not only to make sure they get the support they need, but that support looks, whether it be academic or in some cases, some opportunity to make sure they get what they need every day in terms of supplies when they come to school, that happens. And when we look at doing that equitably, we do believe like, okay, we're gonna make sure everybody, so it's not like we pick 15 kids and we're gonna give them something, but don't support it to the budget. It's the most equitable way we could think of doing that. And so that's our hope. And then that's why we do it. And I would say, if the things that we earmarked and would continue to earmark, and it's why I spoke to you all about middle school opportunities, right? For all of the kids at that age in special education, because those are the things, if I come and speak to you, those are the things that I'm worried about. I can tell you last year, it was STEAM teachers, right? You got one at Naquag and you got one at Glenwood. It was these interventionists, you get two at Naquag. Those are the positions that we talked about. Those were the budget drivers last year. And so that's why we spoke about that. I don't think we thought we'd be in the position to do some of the supplies, but looking at it, it was like, okay, we can try to pull this off. And so we did it, but that's why we did it. And I can tell you, it's an appropriate question. But I also feel like the money we spent and what you saw as an increase, those were for teaching positions. It wasn't because we were trying to slide supplies by. It's a good question and we should be accountable.
Then some people were saying that it was a grant, so there was a lot of unknowns about it, because I've been asked several times.
No, and we should, and I appreciate the question.
And another big thing is transportation. That's a huge.
Yeah.
And I've, when we heard, well, they're not reimbursing the 100%. And then when I found out 100% is 100% of like 20%, it's nowhere near, in that we see buses go by empty.
Yeah.
Is there any, to what Ted was saying, who can we talk to about changing the structure of transportation? Because it's so inefficient and very expensive. And, we change traffic patterns in Rutland because parents are dropping them off and
Yeah.
picking them up anyway. So what
Yeah.
can we, who can we talk to? What options?
Yeah.
It's a
Ever thought-
society change we're gonna have though.
I
Go
think-
follow the buses in the morning.
No,
When I went to Wachusett, and when you went to Wachusett with me, if you're worn out by the bus stop, you didn't get on the bus.
and
Now, Mommy
people
gives them
must
a ride to the bus stop,
And they don't get.
and they
out.
don't get out of the car until the first kids don't get out of the car, and then they all walk slowly across the
They gotta
street.
put on their jacket and stretch, and I'm like, come on, I'm gonna be late.
And mom and dad get on the bus to talk to the bus driver.
It's a society thing, I think. People don't, how do we line up 150 cars in Rutland every day at the school? I didn't wanna have my mommy pick me up at school.
No, I know.
I was embarrassed, but now every kid, 150 cars every day.
But if you look at what what's the path of least resistance to change, and it's not going to be putting the kids on the bus, it's going to be, how do we have fewer buses in different routes? And I guess the other part, I've forgotten what it was that I was going to say, but
To say just a couple, of them. I agree about the use, and I think it only got worse in the pandemic.
It got definitely worse in the pandemic and now, but unfortunately, we have to, by mandate, we have to have a seat on every bus for every kid.
yes.
So we have to,
And we can't charge.
No, we can't.
No,
I
we
understand,
can
but
charge so how the process works, any student that's a mile and a half, we have to
outside.
transport outside a mile and a half.
Transporting everybody.
So what happens is when those kids aren't getting on the bus, even though we have to have their seat for them. And this probably started years ago. This is not a Wachusett problem. It happens in lots of districts.
yes.
So what happens is like, oh, we can pick them up now. We can pick them up now. And sometimes it's a safety reason. So it isn't really like a terrible thing that we might be picking up kids that are under a mile and a half. And at one point, the district did try to, if you're under a mile and a half, then you pay. There's lots of districts who pay fees for bus under a mile and a half too. So, but we don't get reimbursed for those students that are under a mile and a half. We only get reimbursed for those who are over the mile and a half. And the reimbursement rate, by the way, I think it was 92% this year.
But it's not of 100% of the cost. It's about
It's-
20 or 30%.
No, it's for the students, it's for the percentage of students that are above the mile and a half. So we'll take our
Okay.
total cost and we find out how many of those, which is really, when I don't have the numbers right here now, because we have to send this to you can get it, it's public information on the financial end of year report, it's Schedule 7. I don't know what percent, but we take the percentage that are over the mile and a half. Which guessing, I think it's like 70%. Or maybe even like a little bit over 70%. I didn't do it this year, I did it last year by trying to remember my numbers from last year. So,
So
So-
you're saying that even if somebody said, okay, they're gonna fund us 90% this year, we don't get 90%, we only get 70%?
no, we get reimbursed for students that are being transported over that mile and a half.
Okay,
So if we're picking up kids that are under a mile and a half, we're not being reimbursed for
Okay.
that
it's not
percentage.
costing you anything because the bus is going by.
Correct. And a lot of times we're picking them up, and there was at
No.
one point the district
I don't-
was doing, I've seen it, like, it was a nominal amount of money. If you were under a mile and a half, then you had to pay like $100.
Okay, so I guess I'm confused and then how the reimbursement.
The reimbursement is we got like 92%, but of the students who were transported over a mile and a half.
Right, but that would be based. The
So
cost for the
say I pay-
buses, the
say I
cost
pay-
for the buses are for the people that are a mile and a half beyond. So you get reimbursed that amount at 90, if it's not, I'm just saying, if it's 90%.
Yeah, so I would say we paid $5 million and in total.
Right,
I can only get reimbursed for the kids who were transporting over a mile and a half. So I have my total number of students who are taking the bus. I can only take that percentage of that
okay,
5 million. So say I can make it an even number, 80%, then I'm only getting reimbursed on $4 million because I can't.
so we're not getting 90% of our transportation costs, is what you're saying.
90% of the 80%.
I understand, but
Yeah.
that's,
It's because we're not required by law to transport those students over a mile and a half,
under a mile.
under a mile and a half.
No, I
excuse me.
understand what you're
We're
saying.
not arguing with you, it's just the way it is.
No, I understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
If you're.
I mean, like I said, we're picking those kids up because we do have
No,
room on the bus. It's a
forget
state.
picking them
Yeah.
up, forget picking them up then, okay, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Forget the under mile and a half ones. If your bus costs are X. And they say we're gonna reimburse you 90% of your transportation costs. How does that figure then if it's 5 million, then you only get reimbursed for 4 million? So we're not getting 90%.
So the theory behind not picking those kids up that are under a mile and a half is it would take less buses.
Well, it would, but we've talked about this dozens of times. And you said you gotta have seats for the people that are supposed to be picked up, whether they're picked up or not.
Over a mile and a half.
So,
we're over busing.
Okay,
so what you're saying then is,
I think she's exaggerating. I'll be
no,
honest.
I don't know what percent it is, to be honest.
no,
It's not-
I'm not just,
She's just using numbers.
Just to make it easy.
right, no, I'm not,
Where the school is in the population.
The thing is that these students have been picked up and sometimes they might be under that mile and a half. And the reason you're picking them up is because it isn't safe for them to walk. It's,
well, that's true.
yeah, like it's.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
But we've been told,
And like I said earlier, it's not costing you any more money because you get on the bus and the bus is going that way anyways. What I'm saying
We're
is,
losing reimbursement.
you're saying that the state says you gotta have a seat for everybody on that bus. Or
outside,
after over the mile and a half, you gotta have a seat for everybody. But we're only getting reimbursed for the ones that actually ride the bus.
No.
All right, so if we're getting paid for every seat that should be there and have X amount of costs to do that job, And we should be getting 90%, not 70%.
We need a whiteboard.
I think, and I don't know, I think what we're saying is, so, for all the kids that were if reimbursement is set at, say, 90%.
Mhm.
Right? And, we are naming all the students who we transport outside of 1.5 miles, right? Those are the people on our ridership.
Mhm.
The question is do we get 90% of the transportation costs for those students?
Yes,
That's, yeah,
And
that's
no,
for those students.
that's all he asked. Don't-
whether
don't-
they're on the
don't-
bus or not.
Correct.
Oh, okay, that's not the way I understood what you were
Correct.
saying.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, that's why I stepped. in.
okay, that's what I was saying, but that's not the way it sounded to me.
She's saying that there's the 20% of the population is within 1.5 miles. So they don't take that.
Just don't pick them up.
Policy. I think
Just
we
don't
have
pick
to
them
look
up.
at the data. I think what I'd say is this is another thing, if you people are curious, we can take a
No
look.
matter which way you slice it, it's unfunded mandate.
Yes.
So let's call a spade a spade. It's an unfunded mandate, whether it's 92, 70,
But
somewhere in
what I learned
between.
tonight, though, is what I learned is that there's that 1.5 miles that, so there, we've heard that there has to be a seat for every student in the district on a bus. And that's not true.
It's the kids above the line.
So.
Except kindergarten, right? Kindergartners. I was always told except kindergarten, because
Maybe they can
kindergartners,
check and come back to
they
us.
take all of the kids in. Because they don't want the kindergartners to walk by themselves.
We can.
I used to walk in kindergarten in Worcester,
I did.
down to Clark Street, so please.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them along by my house.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyways, so that,
Thank you.
And I mean,
I don't
to
wanna
get
go-
our reimbursement too, by the way, we have to certify, and
Right.
that's why we have to certify that those buses are filled 75% capacity.
Right.
So.
So you just
that-
know who lives
We're in
outside
trouble.
that 1.5 miles then, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to count.
But we have kids' routes that we're supposed to be picking up those kids, but the parents are bringing up, we don't have control over that.
But 75% full is not based upon whether you pick them up or not, but that the seat would make it fit 75%.
We have to shut like.
and that's what I'm getting at. So if you go
But
and
you have to
ask what
certify
Carol,
that you do pick them up or that you have a seat for
I have to
75%.
read that thing.
Yeah, but I think.
Because that's where the problem comes
This
in.
is not a small, this is not an inconsequential.
Maybe they could come
budget.
back and tell us the exact
Right.
numbers, because we're all speculating.
what I'm was just trying to say was, so that takes us to what Carol was just asking, is the perception is the buses are empty, which if you look at them, they pretty much are sometimes, not always, but sometimes. And
That's what
then,
you're
so
seeing.
then everybody says, and I've heard this argument outside by a number of people too, is then why don't we use minibuses for most of, or why don't we use smaller buses so then the contract would cost us less? But that's what I'm saying. That's where that comes from, is what I'm trying to get at. So
Yeah.
we're getting money back for what we're required to do and what we contract to do, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
And it'd be easier on our roads.
Yeah, I think, one thing we could, I don't know how easy this is to get from again. We could look at the number of students who are allocated to each bus. And so, that give you some sense in terms of what a full bus would typically would look like for capacity. I think one of the challenges too, I'd say in a town like Rutland is, depending on where the kids are, you're also trying to make sure the routes get them a reason, because the other, well, you have, there you go.
They
And so
do different runs.
those are
so,
sometimes
like,
that.
one run for that bus might have more than another run. So that's why, like, going to a smaller bus, then you might have eliminated that ability to do. First we go here, then we go there, then we go, so,
I'm sure between buses and drop off and pickup, it's a major league headache for somebody.
yeah, the.
It's, I cringe when I start my morning a little 5 minutes late and I get them all the way to Wachusett, then I get to Wachusett as, back to Jefferson. And it's just, it is what it is. There's a lot of people getting dropped off.
There's
there.
50 buses, we
It's
have 50 buses.
absolutely, and it
that
happens
are
at the,
operating.
it happens at the elementary schools too. I think, the only
That's all.
thing,
50 buses.
It's like 150. I don't
No,
know.
it feels like, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I get frustrated. I'm like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't get frustrated. I think the other thing that happens these days that's different when we all would ride the bus or walk to school is that the number of activities that kids have after school, and a lot of times parents are picking up and taking directly to this lesson or that lesson or things like
And they're
that.
not in town, they're not town-based.
There's a lot more
Yeah,
specialization.
you can't get them.
And I'm only talking about the yellow buses. I'm not talking about the vans that transport the special needs students. There's probably.
We used to be able to hop up back in the day if you were going somewhere else for a work or, work study, or you could jump on a bus from Holden and go to
Paxton.
Shrewsbury Street
Mhm.
if you were from Rutland, and they would bring you to work. But as long as you got permission, you were good to go. And you just sat on the bus and shut your mouth and went. They don't, they don't, I don't know if that is the same.
There's parents who live in different households on different days of the week.
Oh, no,
Kids,
no,
you
no.
know,
It's,
you can go with permission, go on the bus. If there's room, there always has to be room. Like it's,
Half days.
yeah, it's like, it's just
Schedule
you gotta
nightmare.
and you have to get permission, it's.
I saw
It's
one,
not as simple as a kid going, oh, I'm gonna hop on this bus today.
I saw him signing, I saw people, parents signing a sheet. They were putting the kids on the bus or picking them off the bus, and before that kid get off the bus, someone was signing a form. I said, well, they'd be security or whatever, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
You done with your questions?
Yeah.
Cause I got a question, but I have a comment first. I don't know if you remember, I taught seventh and eighth until I retired a few years ago, yeah. And you were right, the vocational schools came in and promoted themselves. There was a time, it was prior to your being here, where the music program would come down.
Yes.
Do a very nice
Yeah,
presentation.
they did it last year.
They
And then,
did.
yeah, they're gonna start doing it again, and because that's
One-
another important point.
One thing that, as you were talking about that, is like my son and a number of his friends went through Wachusett and then went into the trades.
Mhm.
And when I was teaching, there was always a lot of promotion of, we have really good sped programs up at Wachusett. We have really good AP programs, but that's bunch of kids in the middle. Maybe you find a cohort of kids that would be willing to come back and say, look, this is the path that I took. I didn't go to college, or I went to a training program after, and I ended up in a trade,
Yeah.
and try and make them part of that presentation. So when the voc came down, they would bring kids from various different programs. They'd bring their little robots and get everyone all pumped about it. And certainly in the time that I was in Paxton, we went, I think our cap was 9, maybe 13, whatever it was. We never filled it when I was there, and it would spill over into other towns. But by the time I left, we were filling it. There was a waiting list often from Paxton. But I was leading to a question too. You said something about the state saying that it cost X for Wachusett, or maybe even it was more specific to Rutland to educate a kid, but that when you look at the cost, it's X plus something. And that causes a disconnect in the formula. Can you
Sure.
we go over that a little bit?
And so what chapter 70 is based on, so what the state, does as its share, and what the town's minimal local contribution is, it's based on that original rate. And so this is very rough math, but say the state says 14 grand it takes to educate a Wachusett student, right? They base their chapter 70 funding, whatever percentage that is, and then also Rutland's minimal local contribution on that number. And so if, say, and again, I'm making this up, and I can come back with the hard numbers if people want. If we feel, because, half the districts in the state actually get funded at 17,000, right? And we say, this is what we need, because this is what the data shows we need. That 3,000, the state doesn't support at all. And so they're not even paying a percentage of that extra 3,000. It's falling solely on the towns. And that's when we talk about discretionary or operational funding, that's what it is. And that's why it's a big deal. It's not, if the state, we feel like, said, no, it's 17, because what you said isn't any different than a lot of these other communities. At least the state's portion of that would take over part of that $3,000. Like, that's part of the issue in terms of not properly, in my mind, setting that rate, if that makes sense. Does that help clarify it a little bit? Wasn't a great job, but
We're getting,
Sorry.
we're,
No, I think it does, and one of the things that previous administrations used to say that Wachusett's getting a really good deal because we educate kids for less money than other districts.
Mhm.
But that's not necessarily by choice, is what you're saying. It's because the state screws us.
yes, it is. And I would say, and I'm happy to, because it sounds like this would be probably good for people to see. Even when we make the adjustment, you're still not anywhere near the top. All right. And so that's why I showed the example about, if you compare us to Bay Path, right? Because we're still so far below Bay Path in what we're charging per student, even at the adjusted rate, that if we charged Bay Path's rate, we would have $30 million more in a budget. That's where you see that difference, because we don't need, and I'd never advocate for what the state sets for vocational education, because it is a more expensive model. I get it. And those kids have different needs, and there's more equipment that they need and other things. So I'm not arguing that. And I never would argue that some of our cities have higher needs or different needs than we do. But the problem is they've set us so low that it does not capture what the kids need. And that is that because the state isn't picking up that part of the tab, that impacts the towns as well.
so what's happening is the state calculation, if our per pupil and our foundation budget was larger, we get a larger portion of chapter 70 funding, the state. So they calculate how much it is per student. And 59% of it is supposed to go, is your minimum local contribution, and 41% of it is the state. So if you make that bigger, right now, you guys are picking up through that operational or discretionary spending. So in effect, it doesn't matter to you, you'll have a bigger minimum local, but we'll have a smaller operational. So, and then we get more chapter 70 funding, that other percent of it, we get more in chapter 70 funding from the state. The problem is the state doesn't have more money.
They get plenty of money because they're giving us less on the other side as well. And
Well,
on
they-
the side, we're not getting as
My
much.
taxes aren't going down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're getting less and less.
I think that's the other part that makes it so hard, right? Municipalities aren't getting the funding they're getting from the state, but they have the additional hardship of supporting school systems
Right.
more. Yeah, 100% again.
And I think what's happening on the vocational side too, in our towns, not in other towns, there's what's happening for, I know this is happening in Holden, because they asked the question, do they go to the same?
No, they're Bay Path here in.
Okay, so I don't know what's happening here, but one of the towns that is part of the region for Monty Tech doesn't send any students at all. So then they allocate more students for Holden. So they're like, that's more money, and they just keep opening up more seats for Holden. I don't know if that's happening at Bay Path as well too, but
Yeah.
what happens is, I don't know what towns, I feel like it's Littleton, I'm gonna get it wrong, I'm not even gonna say, but I don't know if that's happening here too. So we could lose students simply because some other town that's within that region for Bay Path, they're not getting the kids aren't going there. That just opens up more seats that they allocate out to
Rutland
the
used,
other.
when Paxton wasn't making its caps, there were certainly kids from Rutland that were going above Rutland's cap. for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
It's a
so
lot.
that's another little caveat that I know is happening in Holden, and they wanted to try to cap so they could plan appropriately, because even though it's not as big of the part of their budget as Wachusett, it's still like, if I have to send 8 more kids there,
It becomes a bigger percentage.
it's, they're getting a big increase in what they're paying and they have no control over it.
I did hear something, I believe that the Vogue schools are going to a,
Yeah. Thankfully, you're gonna see this, the lottery,
Lottery.
right? And
Does
so
that may
I
end up saving us some kids leaving?
it's gonna have an impact, and I forgot to say that to you as well. We're talking about kids not going to the high school, so they have changed. In addition to agreeing to looking at the funding formula, the state has looked at, one of the challenges was the feeling that a lot of the kids who could benefit from the vocational programs weren't getting in. And the vocational schools were basically choosing whoever they wanted, and a lot of kids who could have benefited, to the point of some of their programs that would have filled trades that are in demand in the state weren't getting filled because they were taking other students who had other interests. And so one of the things that's happening now is there's going to be a weighted lottery. And basically what that says is kids have an opportunity. They get in by a lottery, but there are also ways you can get almost extra lottery tickets. And so whether it's, you don't have behavioral incidents or good attendance or some other things, they go through that. But what it effectively means is there'll be more open access to these programs, because what they were finding is a lot of times kids who traditionally benefited from having those opportunities weren't getting in. And so they're trying to make sure those kids have a pathway too. Because kind of to your point too, is like sometimes, it's why we've tried so hard to make sure we continue the auto program in high school. Because for a lot of kids, that's like being on the football team or something else, what they're interested in. And we should make sure we're having those opportunities for those kids, because we want them to like school too and to see it through whenever we can. And so I'm hopeful that that has a little bit of an impact too. Because then if somebody really wants to go to the vocational school, they're going through that process, and it's not, just kids, deciding to pursue something else than was originally intended. So.
Where do we stand with few years back, we paid for camera systems in all the schools. Where do we stand, the district with the regional public safety departments? Where's that process now? Are we close to getting that integrated?
Yeah, you get, I'll get an update again. I'll send this to you guys. So they've got the systems in all the schools. I think they were finalizing the entry cards with, I think they were still doing that at NAQUAG this fall. But all systems right now at Glenwood, Central Tree and NAQUAG, they have security systems and in cameras. One of the things that they made sure, I think, fixed at most of the schools too, is at some places, and I think about Glenwood in particular, they were looking at something that looked like it was out of the Jetsons. You could barely make out the person at the door, and it really wasn't focused on them. And so I know that's been upgraded as well, which was a need. I think we all know Glenwood's pretty isolated, and it's important that those.
So we're getting there. We're not there yet, right?
Yeah, I'd say one of the things that we'll be asking the town to consider in terms of the schools is looking to make sure that there is consistent and the ability for emergency personnel to communicate in our schools. So I think the second part of your question, in terms of, we do have security systems now, we're doing far better in terms of having systems that aren't relying on keys. Because that was one of the problems in the district, is we had keys for a number of years and people would leave the district and we wouldn't be getting back their keys. And there was a lot of points of failure that you don't want to have in a school building. I think the other thing in terms of a primary concern for our schools that we're working with, and we meet with both the chiefs for the fire and police, we're looking at making sure that communications are what they need to be.
Well, that's
In the schools?
that's how it was sold to the town, that's what this was gonna be. So
The
it's
security
it's been a little bit of time. We're just wondering where that's at.
Yeah, so the security systems and all that are gone. I think the next thing we've been working on with the chiefs is making sure that communication piece can happen inside of the schools. And I'm talking about if they go.
It's whatever.
Right.
You can do it.
Where we're at, and the other thing, actually, our deputy superintendent, John Kroll, he's putting this out right now. is we're gonna have the access agreement, so. You know, basically, in any emergency, fire and police will have access to the cameras and be able to access all of those things, like that's.
Well, that's how it was sold to the
Yes,
taxpayers.
no, and that's-
And that's what you guys are working in the right direction, that's all.
Yeah.
Perfect.
No.
The other thing,
How much longer do you think that's gonna take? The whole purpose of spending that,
They have that.
Too much money.
Yeah, no, if they need access, they can get it now. I think we just have to pass a policy through.
I
Now,
mean, if the worst case scenario occurs, don't you want to make sure that we're not sending in first responders to a bad situation without knowing what's going on?
yes, of course.
I just,
we're-
I hear about access, but I'm like, okay, but why isn't it already done?
Thank you.
Well, we're talking access, but what
No.
about cameras?
So it's an IT. So we just gone through the whole process with our IT, with the school IT. Because it was, where is all this information gonna be stored? It's gonna be stored on the school servers.
Mhm.
And then we just need to come up with access control. So that's,
which I think is,
it's almost there. So, but we had full card access in a lot of the buildings now for all public safety stuff.
Yeah, full card, but the nice thing is, wouldn't you like to know what you're walking into?
Yeah, but-
I mean, that's my whole thing.
It-
That was how this was
So
sold.
the issue is the town side of is the issue, not the school side.
Okay,
Our IT is not capable of communicating, and we're working through that problem. It's not their issue, it's our issue.
yeah, it doesn't
Well,
surprise me.
that's what's on the warrant, right, for this fall?
no,
That's
that's,
what public safety bill.
Public safety. Club.
But there was I thought
Yes,
when
but
you
that's-
said that,
yes.
it was gonna be able to.
They are the
Okay.
same company, be able to
Alright.
tie in.
so I guess that's great. I'm glad we're working toward it. We're going in the right direction. So with what is it called? Set them repair the $35,000 level. What's
Well,
that?
that's part of the school maintenance group.
Okay. So I would go on record as saying, I think that I like the way the plan is, but I think it's inequitable when it goes to $35,001. I don't care that. I think we all agree we're gonna pay either one way or we're gonna pay the other. But what I'd like to see is if I think we all, in speaking with the town administrator, and they came to you guys and said $50,000, and you guys kind of balked at that.
I think, I'll tell you, I think we're open. I think where I agree with you, and I think this is what you're gonna say, is that the process stinks. And there isn't really where people necessarily trust the figures that people come to. And so I think regardless, I'm with you. So like whether it be 35 or 50, I think that there's an opportunity in that agreement to be more clear about what's the process we should be going through, where both parties can have confidence.
Correct, because if it's $35,001, we assume responsibility, and we just pay it in a different,
$50,000, yeah.
yeah, but my compromise would be up to 35,000, you pay it. And then we assume 3501 for what, $70,000 or $100,000. And then that would streamline that process getting there. Because it's
It kind of makes it too easy to not maintain things, to kind of push it off on the towns to hold it up.
Yeah, and so I'll,
I'm not saying that
No,
you're
no.
doing that, but
but
it, the
it gives
perception
that
is,
perception.
we will fix it because then we won't have to pay for it, because in another 2 years it'll be over that level, and I'm
totally
not
get
saying you
you.
guys are doing.
I think we have to be done.
Nowhere near that, yeah.
No, we have to, you know, when we first came, Michelle and when Michelle and I first came to you, like, I think we pretty much came with our hats in hand and say, look, we know.
We were off. I didn't,
Yeah, and I don't wanna tell you right now, obviously, we're not there yet either, right? And so I 100% hear you. And I think that one of the things I know we had said to Seth and the others that we're happy to get together and share our maintenance records and all those things. Because I do think we have to make the process better. We do understand. And if I were the town, I feel the same way. I want to have confidence if we're getting estimates or going through this, that I have confidence we're doing the right thing. And then I also want to have confidence that I'm not getting stuck with a bill that I wouldn't have gotten stuck with if the school had done the maintenance it should have done. And so I totally hear that. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna acknowledge it, that a lot of school districts, okay, and school systems, the first cuts they make are maintenance. All
Always.
right, and so, no, I hear you, and then so like, I just wanna let you know, like, no, I think that's accurate. I think though, one of the things, and we'll be happy to, I think this is helpful for us, because when we come to you and do our presentation, I think one of the things we'll kind of try to show you is like, it's one of the things we've increased, is every year we increase the maintenance budget. And one of the things we had offered, and we're gonna do this, is share the maintenance records that we've done the last few years. And to your point, there's probably opportunity for us to do even more.
And I mean, I work in the schools,
Mhm.
in the Wachusett schools. I work with the boilers.
Mhm.
And I go to districts in other parts of the state that are getting grants. I don't know how they did it, but they get a Honeywell grant, and we're putting in all new boilers. And unfortunately, winter in Massachusetts is the best 7 months of my life, right? So, if we could help you guys somehow through these programs to update the equipment. There's not very many schools in this district that don't have a boiler that's under 30 years old. It's just where we're at, right? There's other things to do. But I'm sure it's lighting, and I'm sure it's all the way through the school, but I go to some school districts and maybe they're urban and maybe they're not, but they've updated their equipment through grants. I don't know how we get there, and maybe it's we have to talk to somebody to help us, but I think there's opportunities out there. I just don't know how to get there.
Yeah, I think I'll be honest with you, I think we need to continue to look for grants and opportunities.
I mean, you guys have been putting fluorescent or replacement light bulbs in the schools by the thousands, but you're saving money on the other, you know what I mean? So we just gotta figure out how to get there to help you guys.
Well, I think,
One thing we wanna, sorry, go ahead, no, please.
I think there's been some grants though to do that. I mean, like in
Right.
Naquag, there's been some grants to upgrade some of that stuff. I mean, we have had some.
But we just gotta keep, I don't know that maybe before your administration, maybe it wasn't a priority,
We can do better.
but I would love to see you guys just, there's so many electrical things and
And by we, he means you.
Probably true.
Another piece of this. I seem to remember something we were talking about, like insurance, if insurance would cover a boiler or something, but Rutland wouldn't be able to access the insurance because we're not on it as a rider or something. Am I
No,
making this
if
up?
we can get something like how the lease agreement would work, if like, say we can get something, we insure the building, so we'd take advantage of our insurance.
right.
And then if it's still something above and beyond, then.
Why aren't we an additional insured?
We are now.
We are now,
We
okay,
are
so
now. Several years ago, when we had I think it was a hot water heater or something blew, and there's water everywhere. There's middle of winter. That's when we found out that we were not.
okay, so this goes back to
By
my.
Yeah.
having the additional
And
insurance.
that was at Naquag.
Yes, no, it was Central Trade.
Yeah, they've all had.
Yes.
But I mean, it's just not Rutland, it's all the schools, right? But somehow or another, these other districts, I've seen this happen. I don't know how to do it, but
Yeah, so there's
They
a couple
probably have
of
some
things.
staff who are able to
Well,
seek it out.
I
you know?
think there are some things and like just a couple opportunities. I know we want to be in better position for the town moving forward is like when you look at a Naquag, right? And you're starting to look at like that system and what you want to do with Naquag moving forward. So when it does need a roof, when it does need windows, when it needs a boiler, one of the programs that we could try to help access is the accelerated repair program through the MSBA. And what that does is it gives you money back on the dollar. And so you're not paying for the system that cost, you're paying at a far discounted rate. And so one of the things we're trying to do, and again, I'm happy to do it. I actually got to reach out because I think you've got a capital committee as
Yeah.
well too.
Yeah.
I think we were gonna offer to report to them. One of the things we're trying to do a better job of is start to look at the buildings and know when you're eligible for these types of programs, which are typically around 30 years. And so it's possible some of these schools that you've been doing this in, that's what they were in. They were in accelerated repair.
Yeah.
And you can get it. The thing that's difficult about accelerated repair right now is they've made a change where now they're not supporting fossil fuel replacement. They're only supporting like heat pumps and some other
And
things. So the-
natural gas
Yep,
also.
yeah, and some of the differences, but I think to your point, no, that's one, I think we want to get better. And the other thing, I think Rutland's green communities, right?
Yes.
And so the other thing is, yeah, to the point, right now in Princeton, right, they're replacing their univents, which are their
Mhm.
kind of
The window,
heating-
the heating units in the windows.
yeah, and so they're doing that through green communities.
Pencil sharpeners.
Yeah.
Yes.
They use the
You see, well, you see the stuff that's in it, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I look at Wachusett and I look at you know, you guys had a tractor fall through the floor down there in the automotive place. I mean, it hasn't been, you guys haven't had there've been more bigger priorities for the money, and I just see that, and or where your office is. I mean, if next time I'm there, I'll come upstairs and knock it and bring it down to the dark. hole that's the board. Yes, you know what I mean? We put it together with, and it keeps going, but I would just love to see, and unfortunately, where your office is, you've got probably the population of kids that need,
Yeah,
that we have to
absolutely.
foster and make sure they have the right, everything is good there, because
Yeah.
a couple degrees there, that gets out a lot, you know? So I would love to see lighting and things like that you guys are doing. There's gotta be a way to do it. And like Michelle said, maybe we need somebody to do that to help us get there. And we just can't pile it on you, but there's gotta be some things that are, you know, unfortunately.
Yeah, I came from a school, like you talked about the lighting, I was in Western Mass, so the lighting. I think it was Western Mass Electric at the time, but they replaced on a building the size of our high school, bigger probably even square footage wise. All the lighting, hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to LED lighting, all motion censored, all that completely free. Like, so I don't know if it's timing or having someone out there with the knowledge to like make that stuff happen.
And we are, and I'm not saying that our district is the worst. I mean, we can go towards some of the schools in Worcester that are, you know, over 100 years old. Those, you know, Jeff School looks like the Taj Mahal. ECC building looks like the Taj Mahal to some of the schools that I've been in Worcester. So it's hard to. I don't want to be critical of them, but I think there's ways to do it. Whether it's through a program like that, whether it's what's the
Mass Save.
Mass Save or something. There's something that got to be out there to help us, because energy costs I'd like to watch.
Yep.
Have got to be.
Yep, absolutely.
Less so because they're part of the Holden Municipal.
Yeah.
It's not like us schools out here where we're paying for more.
It's still high, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, energy in and of itself is more expensive, but still a lot less than here.
Well, I think that maybe we had a couple things you can check up on in the bus and try to clarify that, but I think I don't have anything else. I don't know if anybody else does.
Where can we get how much the state allows for each school district? Is that on the DESI site? Is that on the Office of Secondary Education? Is that on the Department of Education? It's a lot of different ones, because I went and looked and I'm like, I thought it was here. Nope, it's over here. I can do that too. I can Google, don't worry. I
Okay.
thought you guys,
I'll
I know.
look
I can give you a chance. You know who does it for us is Barry Scott. He's a
Yeah.
technology person.
Okay,
But
so,
I was gonna see if I can access my old page, because I didn't even give you some of those.
well, no, I don't mind doing it myself. I don't mind doing it myself, and I'll just look it up. If that's what, I can do it. Don't worry. I just figured if we knew what it was, it would save me some time, but I could do that.
We can send it to you though, because Barry will give you the right the link even. Maybe
Okay.
what we can do is actually send you the link and you can click it and
That'd
it'll
be
like
great.
you'll be there.
Just because I'd like to see that,
Yep.
so that it'll depress me even more.
Tommy?
So I guess my question, if I start off by saying, I think this is great that we got together, because I've been on the finance committee for a few years. And we've always tried to get together sooner than later, because we always got pushed down to that March, end of March, April, and boom, the town meeting.
Here it
was
is.
There,
Yeah.
and try to do things. So I think this is wonderful that you came and we could actually talk. One of my, well, it's not kind of a question, it's kind of a statement, but maybe what you could think, or what you would think about this. Every year we try to do the budget, right? And we're trying to put numbers together, and we're always concerned about the school number coming in up at a higher number than we think we can do. And we're, in general terms, now I know there's more to it than all this, but generally speaking, the Prop 2.5 thing, we can raise 2.5%, right? Now, you said earlier that no matter what you do, you were saying that your budget would probably come in at 4.5 or 5.5% every year, that you would need for an increase. So using that number at 5.5%, because the last, I don't know how many years, it's been 7, 8, 9%.
For your assessment.
And I understand that, and we just, like you said, sometimes the students go down, but none of our numbers go down, and the students maybe go back up a little, whatever, but. So if we have to work with a number like that at two, like I said, there's other revenues too that come into this, but just in a general picture. So that's 3% more than the 2.5, obviously, and the school budget for us is 60%, close to 2/3. So that means that we have to go back on the other side of what we have left over, municipal operations, debt, all these other fixed costs we may have, which means then we actually have to look at that at 6% less to do what we want to do. If you're taking 3% more of 2/3, that 1/3 that's left has got to give up more than 3% in order for us to balance. And that's what we kind of run into every year we've been doing this. Like I said, I've been around for a while, and then even before that, I'm sure it was the same way, but
You dealt with it when you were in the fire department.
I know, I mean, I can go back to 99, 98. They said, oh, look at, this is gonna be a tough budget this year, but another year or 2 years, we're gonna be out of this, so we're gonna be doing good. Well, the next year was the same, it's been the same thing right along, so I think that's one of the things we try to deal with, so, you know what I'm saying, I just want you to know that even though you talk about having to have that we can only deal with the 2, in general terms, the 2.5, which means the other side of our budget has to go down even more to fund the 2/3 of it.
And I think what we hear is that you level service and we end up level funding because we can't maintain the services.
Or even less than level funding, but now, yes, we've got some of that back, and we've had some other revenues, hopefully, that came in and helped us. So we've done a little bit better, but
This year this year's going to be a tough year for Rutland.
Are you doing it over?
Oh,
That would be the question for the select. board. Like you guys produce it and the school committee, it's the same
we
thing.
know right now, they're saying no right at the moment, but we don't know that.
Yeah, I,
They've been non-committal, I think is the best way to do
Yes.
it.
No
We're
comment.
a million and,
And
we're
just-
$1.5 million out right now, right?
Right, and then we had some projections last year for the next 5 years. I mean, the numbers are like, oh my God, they're scary. Of what we need to be going for, we're gonna have to be keeping asking for overrides.
For
Big
5
ones.
years.
I would only say is like, I hear what you're saying. And I hope I take it seriously and I don't blow that piece off, you know, and it's why Michelle and I every year have advocated. I give school committee credit. They voted for it when we said, look, we get more money back. We need to get it back to the towns. Because we totally get, I know, 2 years ago, Paxton was cutting, police and fire. And, we don't want that to happen. I live in Holman, and looked at places. around. I don't want these communities to lose essential services, and I'm not of the belief that the school department's the end all be all, and forget about everyone else. I think what I'm trying to balance is trying to do the best to get the school system where I think we all want it to be. And and there's gonna come a time where we may not pass the budget, and I don't want that to happen, but I'll understand it when it does. And I just would want to, I would want you to understand that I hear everything that you're saying, and it's not that I don't care. And it's not, if I could find a way, one of the things we really do try to do, even when we present the budget, is show you the things we've got. One of the things that we don't talk about publicly a lot, right? But a lot of times when we add positions, we're not just getting those positions by adding them to the budget. Like, we had 4 fewer teachers at the high school last year, because when we ran the numbers, we didn't need them. And so I would want the towns to understand, like, please know when we put forth our budget, we're also making cuts. And we're reducing staff where we don't need them. We have fewer, in some areas, we have fewer paraprofessionals, because if they're not positions that we need, we won't fund them. And we've been trying to take the savings from moves like that and put it into teaching positions. We haven't been perfect. And I will say that the net number of employees, like the teachers, we did add, I think in the budget last year was like 5 or 6, maybe been 7. But the number, like I shared, like in Naquan, you got 3. In Glenwood, I think we added 2. And so what the towns are hopefully getting out of that is far more than what they're supporting in the budget. But I hear every word you're saying, and just know that, or please know, it's not, I don't feel good about any of that. And I'm not coming in, and neither is Michelle, like, well, we don't care. We do care. And we also understand it's something like the towns are like, yeah, you can't do it. And we accept that, and we don't want that to happen. And we're always going to try to advocate and say, this is why we need what we need, because we're trying to make things better for the kids. But we also have to understand, to your point, it's not acceptable for towns to be cutting essential services either. And so that's the best answer I can give you. I don't have a great solution for it, but I am telling you right now, I hear you.
Because as you know, the town can't just come up with another tax and say, okay, we're gonna raise this thing over here to get more money. We add a lot of fees every year, and people are getting, you were talking about fees for all things. I mean, that in town, we get fees for all kinds of things that people have been getting hit with, that then probably not too happy on, as Carol was saying, Facebook, about what's going on with those too. So that wasn't going up. So, and the other point, the 2.5 thing, I'm sure, because it's been in the papers, it's like what, 70-80% of across Massachusetts, that 2.5 is hurting all cities and towns all across the state.
Absolutely.
Well, we do appreciate you guys coming in. You guys have been more than transparent and helping us, and in any questions we have, we send them to Seth, and Seth goes down with, or if we have a question, we can talk about it. It's just been a good, way better open relationship like this meeting and the ones we're gonna have in the future than, 2 or 3 weeks before the end of the budget season. Here you go, guys. And that's, I mean, unfortunately, the outcome may be the same, but at least we can all talk about it, and you guys know where we're at and what it's going to impact. Whether it changes, we don't know, but it's been a great process, and we do appreciate you guys coming in.
And this is the best it's been ever to come this early and start talking.
And I think that it's nice to have a small group.
Yes.
More intimate and freer exchange of ideas.
Please know we appreciate too, and we really do appreciate the support, because the towns have been wonderfully supportive of us, and I think we need to continue to say that. And we know it's had an impact on other things. So I just want to say thank you.
You don't regret coming to our Jason?
No, not at all.
How about you?
I-
It's Yeah, yeah.
From what I hear about her, she enjoys the challenge. She digs her, she doesn't
Yeah,
even,
she's, yeah.
yeah, this is like nothing. You're just having fun.
Oh, that's good.
It's up at everyone when I get up.
Always, yeah. It's just,
No, and I don't, yeah, it's gonna take a little while and
there's lots that needs, there's still lots that needs improvement. Especially when you start talking about the facilities and things like
I mean,
that. When you try to do that, then there's
That's a
just,
whole
like you
different-
said, only so much money. Then you have to decide you're taking some service away from some kid or something,
that's another
so.
pull of the onion skin that you unravel that and then, then you've got some parents or some people in our communities that say this, the MCAS scores aren't what they used to be or whatever. So there's another whole, so,
Yeah,
Difficult.
yeah, we appreciate it.
thank you, likewise.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
And don't apologize for snowstorms this year. We all. You did a good job. You did more than I would have done. I guess you have to walk that fine line, but last year you went a little, I thought you were way too nice. How's that? Some of those, you gotta get the kids home safely. And you gotta do what you gotta do. And I'm sorry if it impacts mommy and daddy's work plans. And you do a good job.
Those are hard calls.
Oh, they're not easy calls, but no matter what you do, you
Yeah, you're damned if you do.
I'm either
damned
trying
if
to
you
kill
don't.
people or I'm a big.
oh, no, but you went over the bone apologize.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Last year when one of those was, I'm like, oh, poor guy. Thank you very much and
Likewise.
have a great night.
Thank you, everybody.
Drive safely on the way home.
Thanks.
Have fun. I'd like to jump over meeting minutes of October 14th. We need to accept three different, the 13th, the 16th, and the 23rd. We have a motion to accept them so we can, the 14th.
I need a motion to accept the minutes for October 14th.
Okay, we have a second.
Second.
Does anyone have any discussion related to the October 14th minutes or have any corrections they'd like to make? Okay, none being heard. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's good. Moving right to the 16th. To start the discussion, do we have a motion to? Minutes?
Make the motion to approve the minutes of October 16th as printed.
Okay, do we have a second? Do we have a discussion, about these minutes or does anyone like anything edited? Anything? None being heard. In favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. And the last one is October 23rd. This one's a little bit. Well, because it was the warrant. I skimmed it the other day when I saw it. I didn't have any problems with it, but we have a motion to accept this.
No, there's some serious problems.
We gotta start with a motion, right?
Yeah, but I'm not doing that motion. I'll open a motion to discuss, but there's some serious problems here.
All right, let's go into discussion.
Article 6. I did not vote yes.
Okay, so that better be a correction, right?
Mhm.
What was it?
What was your vote?
Was it no abstain or whatever?
No, it was, there were 3 of us. Tom and Ludwig voting affirmatively, Carol, Lynn, Darren, Ted, and Karen all voted nay. And that's not what this says, so. It said Darren said yes, I said yes, Lynn said yes,
I
Carol
definitely
said
said
yes.
nay there.
I know that, that's why I'm asking. I caught that one, I was like, okay, we gotta fix that.
Aaron was a nay, so it was 3-3, so we,
Well, wait a minute. You said nay. When I made the first motion that said we would recommend favorable, this was to recommend negative, and you were,
take no action, this was.
what, take no action.
So this is, so we took a roll call. Okay, so that, okay. so it's a
Originally, the motion failed.
Okay, that's the reason,
Initially-
okay,
Motion was favorable.
because that was the
That's what
thing,
I
I'm
said.
like looking, going, wait a second, I didn't vote yes on that.
Good job, good catch, Tom.
Motion failed 2-5.
And then on the one,
So
I forget,
motion-
I've lost track of which one it is, the one with the fire department. There isn't enough in here about asking, there was some stuff that I definitely would have liked to have seen in
Can
it.
we go back one step?
Yeah, that's fine.
So Article 6
Is okay.
Is
the way
okay.
is okay the way it is, because look
Okay.
at that, as long as, okay, good.
It just,
Yeah, the second part corrects. the
It's a
first
mess.
part,
Yes.
But it doesn't, yeah, you gotta, yeah.
so the
I see-
one with the,
I see what you're saying
Were
now.
you talking about the
fire
fire truck?
department, no, the fire department,
People?
for, yeah, for the, no, for the schooling. There isn't enough in there about, it says just,
Which one is that?
I don't
11,
remember.
11.
It
11?
says, if there was some discussion about trying to keep them there. There was discussion on
paramedics?
asking, and, how do we get them? I would like it to be more specific that we did ask is there ways to get them to put it up with promissory notes, which I did find Mount Wachusett does. Anna Maria does not, but they have another thing to do, and I couldn't remember the name of the one in Cambridge, and at that point, I just washed my hands of the deal. But it didn't take me long to find out that Mount Wachusett takes it, so.
Right, so how do you want to change it,
Well,
Ken?
it does say there, it says employee to reimburse town, but after much discussion, it was agreed the town administrator would seek guidance from town council. It does say that.
Yeah, but it's kind of,
What,
I think it's very,
Okay.
generalized. I would like it to say that discussion was that we should be looking at having them sign to stay on for a certain amount of time after it, potentially do a tuition reimbursement. Because in 6 years, when someone's looking at this, they should see that we did try to do all these things.
wasn't that what that says,
No,
your town council?
I agree with what you're saying, so
Yeah.
so we should have some kind of
yeah, that,
agreement with them and or what options there would be to do that.
right, that's the thing, that we
Big
asked
talk.
about tuition reimbursement versus
Yep.
paying
We
upfront.
could do that.
That we would have them sign off saying they had to stay so many years.
But
This is
isn't
kind of
that what-
generalized.
Isn't that summed up in the statement? After much discussion, it was agreed that the town administrator would seek guidance from the town council because there
Regarding-
was some. We got it back?
No, regarding what?
Regarding what?
Right.
That whole previous statement.
I think, if I remember though correctly, that was just about the.
And we talked about several things there.
Yeah, well, because there was
I see
conversations
what you're
that,
saying. You're saying regarding,
Why
Why?
why is he going to town?
So it
What is the
it's
question to
Yes.
town council?
right, town council is, can we do
Right.
tuition
not
reimbursement?
only the
Promissory.
union contract things, what other agreement could we have with them if we can't do that, or we could do that? What,
Right.
there were other things that. we
It
could-
was, in my opinion, it was too generalized,
all right, so
and there was a lot of discussion on those. And I will say that,
Right, so can we leave this one, have you write what you,
we don't have to pass it. We don't have to
Right.
accept this tonight.
and
No.
do this at our next meeting, that's all.
In our next meeting, you guys can do it at the town meeting if you want.
yeah, but that's too tight of a time period to have any kind
Well,
of
December meeting.
Do what at the town meeting?
approve these these minutes.
Approve the minutes.
Yeah,
I'm gonna wait till the next meeting.
Can we-
We don't have a next meeting. We'll pick,
no, we've got one December 4th to go over
Okay.
the bylaw.
is that gonna be all right?
Why not?
Okay, we'll do it then.
So I'm gonna throw this out there. The last line of this says pending the information received, certain members will vote on their recommendation at town meeting. But we then voted 4-3 to recommend favorable, right?
Yep.
To some extent, the wording of it
Doesn't make
is no
sense.
longer,
Yeah.
well, it no longer matters
Right.
because we voted to say favorable about it, but you want it there for record purposes? Is that-
I didn't care so much about that. I wanted it there saying that it was about tuition reimbursement, specifically those kind of events. It wasn't just tossed around, there was discussion. There was very specific discussion.
So you want that there just so that we're on record as having done our homework?
Yeah, but why?
But regardless,
We can get
we
rid of
recommending
Right,
favorable.
pending the information received, certain members will vote. That, no, we
Doesn't
didn't.
matter anymore,
Right,
right? We're not
exactly.
gonna re-vote.
No,
But see, hold on one second. When it says members express their concerns with the risk of paying for tuition and having employees leave employment or fail the course, it was unclear whether the language could be included in the union contract and what that would require the employee to reimburse the town. So after much discussion, we decided that the town administrator would ask town council and get back to us. I don't understand. I don't know how much more clear it has to be.
So I got a question. Did you talk to town council and you have any information for us?
I absolutely do.
yeah.
So we have a response from town council. It's been turned over to the deputy chief. They're negotiating with the union and coming up with policy and procedure of how the whole process. Once it's done, it will be forwarded to this committee.
So would it be done by the town meeting?
The union piece will not, the policy would be yes.
So they're two separate things.
What the union contract, we're opening the contract for one issue, we're not opening the whole contract. It's gonna be a side letter that refers to department policy. And then when the union contract comes up for renewal, then it will be brought into the contract.
And does it have to be in the contract or
It's-
could they be stuff?
So there's gonna be language in the contract because it impacts a union. If there's that promissory note for reimbursement in the future, so what can be in the contract is reference department policy number X, Y, Z. And yeah,
I understand that. I didn't know if there was some other way you could do it too. I thought that's what we talked about also.
Yep.
Okay.
Because that was the thing. I think tuition reimbursement versus upfronting it and then getting it back if they don't.
So how? Right. So this Article 11 is still a concern, even if we don't know what the policy is gonna be, correct? You,
That would be retroactive. I don't think that we could.
yeah, but how are you gonna vote at a town meeting on it though, or recommend something? There's the question.
Doesn't matter, we already
You've
said we're
already-
gonna recommend.
We can change our mind.
4-3.
Yeah, but I thought we just wanted to have some answers so the town meeting knew that that the town was working on something. And the policy would.
We're still not gonna know that.
No, I know, but we did, I thought at the meeting, we said we didn't think the policy would be completed by the town meeting, but we wanted to make sure it was started and that we would have some ideas what we could tell them.
I think you're right. It would be started.
Because it would be too close of a time frame to get it done before November 20th.
So what I think I just heard Seth say was that there is progress toward policy language that will protect the town from pissing away this money. And we should be able to say that at the meeting.
Yeah,
And you can't.
I will
say-
figure out I'll go back and I'll watch it and I will.
Don't say it like that and raise your voice. What I'm saying is we want to help.
But I need to make sure it's in here, because it was mentioned about getting promissory notes. It was mentioned about that, and I was very much spoken down to on that evening that they don't do that anymore. And a 3-minute phone call found out they take them,
Yeah.
and I want that in
I
here.
don't think anybody's talked down to you. Let's stop there.
I agree with.
We
you.
all respect your opinion. Do that. We're not gonna vote on.
Other people in there did.
Okay. I thought you were
Just
saying
you
that.
guys. No, not you guys, but it was, they don't do that
So
anymore.
let's take this one off we don't need to do anything with this because Karen has got a very valid point. Let's get it squared away.
So, yeah, let's get it squared away.
I mean, so that when they're bound in the book,
Well,
It's
and
accurate.
like Ted just said, we've already voted to be favorable. We can vote to approve the minutes on December 4th.
Right, okay. So on December 4th, we bring these minutes back. We have the town bylaw. Is there anything else anybody would like to talk on the 4th about that we should bring?
Yeah, wait, I got to write one thing that I want to forget to do. Yes, I do.
Okay,
I can get to this page.
by the way, I've never heard it explained to the school committee the way you explained it tonight about the 1/3, 2/3, and that was, he had his mouth open. He understood you when you were done. That was cool. Because he didn't think of it that way before.
Yeah.
Because your 1/3 affects 2/3 of us every time, and that,
Well, that's why I want to get, because.
no, but it makes a big difference how you said it, and it's not really.
Listen.
Yes, but it's not 3%, it could be 5%.
Right.
Yeah.
Or whatever that affects, goes back, and you said it, your 1/3 affects us twice.
They're 2/3, affects our 1/3.
1/3
Right.
twice,
But I do want to just
well, it affects us.
remind you, Tony, that even if the school budget goes up 5 point something%, Rutland's went up 6.2.
Right.
So.
But that's our enrollment, so.
Oh, it is, but that's
But
that's
that's everything.
our budget,
It does.
so it's.
But it affects us the other way, right? It's gonna really affect us.
Yeah.
Like it did last year. We're already,
There's legislation to triple our excise taxes.
Is there really?
Oh, yippee. Pay more, get less,
Going through legislation now.
get more.
A brand new car could cost you $3,000 a year to.
So that we can discuss it on December 4th or a little bit after that, but at the town meeting on the 20th. I want to make a suggestion or see what the committee feels. I would like to say for us to talk to town council on the 20th. About that DESI question we had about presenting the school budget at the annual town meeting with the budget. The question we had last year, we have not answered it yet.
we still have not.
So
answered.
what I'm saying is, we're not gonna get an answer to the 20th, and I don't wanna discuss it on the 20th, but I'd like to have us go to the town council that's there and say, look, we're gonna look for an answer to this question, and he may say a few things, but what other information would he need from us to answer our question?
Do we know which lawyers come?
Roger. He'll be able to answer it. So,
Well, it doesn't make any difference even if it's a feeling. I mean, as long as we can ask.
Well, no, it's better because it's somebody
Is
who
this the
understands.
question we couldn't get asked?
Yes,
Yeah,
that we
so
weren't
last
allowed to ask last
So
year.
can
So wait a minute, so this is just our back way of going around and getting it actually answered?
No, not
We were
no,
trying to change the bylaw, right?
I'm not looking at it as a back way. I'm looking at it as getting the answer to the question that we had.
Because we can't get it through a normal channel, though we
No,
don't.
we can
know
now.
how to get it.
We can.
Haven't discussed it since then.
So why are we waiting? Why don't we get it done, answered now?
Because he's on the clock already.
Yes.
When he said.
won't be an extra charge.
He'll be there.
That's why he's gonna be there and he's gonna,
Coupon. It's a coupon code if we catch them on the 20th.
and Karen's gonna hit him up. He's gonna bring candy and he's gonna be nappy and.
It's a coupon code, so we're gonna hit that right up then.
So, all right, so I am not gonna be there on the 20th, so Ted's gonna run it. But if Tommy or
That's fine.
whoever
Yeah.
knows it, the frame of that question that we wanted, and I know you know exactly, because you were as upset about it as me, so we gotta just,
Well, we have that letter. We can make a
Right.
copy of the letter to
and we
say,
can,
listen, this is what our question is. Do we need, what other information do we need to go with this so that you can give us
like, is
an answer?
this actual law or policy or whatever, however we
Right,
get them, just,
Exactly.
cause that's what our question was, that
Right.
was what it was, is this like,
Is it recommendation or is it required?
correct? That's all.
Because
we
of
need.
course, the school is going to recommend that you
Yes,
do it this.
so you
way.
know, you guys can handle that on that date. We'll
Okay,
have
so
it there.
I make a motion then that we ask the question that because we're not doing discussion. We're gonna ask the question about the DESI letter.
And if someone could bring it with them. And that,
Make that part of the motion. Karen will bring the letter.
I can't promise you I'm gonna bring the letter. I'll do my best.
Tommy will bring, it. He's got it.
Yeah, I know I've got it. It's just,
But, all right, so that's that.
And if not, we can get it from Tamika. I'm sure Tamika's got it on file.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've got it.
Is
I don't
anybody
have
else
it. It's
got
got
anything else?
No, that's my motion.
I'll second it. I can second a motion.
You can do whatever you'd like.
Bless you.
We have a motion made and seconded to at the November 20th meeting. Have a discussion with the town council regarding the DESI letter and information we were given. That's the best way to say it? All those in favor? Oh, any discussion, sorry. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, perfect.
what time will we get there?
Usually about a half hour before the.
Is there any
Well, we
reason?
have a. Kim,
Yeah.
we having a meeting posted for 5 or 5:30 early
Not yet.
for us?
Well, we usually do.
We do, we can, but do we?
We should, just to come.
That's a normal thing.
Yeah.
A just in case thing.
We don't even have to ask. She just normally does that because just in case.
Yeah, but let's make sure that it gets done.
Did you say is she doing this remote tonight?
Yes,
or-
yep.
Okay.
Tamika, could you do that for us?
Yep, you guys are all set. I already have it pending for you guys, select board and planning board.
Thank you.
It's a matter
You're
of.
welcome.
course.
All right, so,
I have a question about our December 4th meeting. You know where we're gonna meet if Festival of Trees has this all?
Oh, that's right.
Fudgicles, is that what you just said?
No, fudgicles.
I like
Forget
that.
about that.
What, December
Yeah,
4th is the
we'll have it.
Thursday. What can we leave?
Well, it's on Thursday.
December
They
4th.
start sending out.
And then on.
No one.
In here.
Hey,
yeah,
guys,
but
I
not
have
in
the
selectmen.
answer.
That one sucks.
I
What's that,
already
Tamika?
reserved the mat,
Well,
I
hold on,
reserved the
she's
mats in
talking.
Redfield room for you guys because they don't set up in that room.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
What did she say?
We're gonna be in Selectmen's
Yeah,
room,
that's all I did. Okay.
but we have to make sure.
Okay, like this. One more time, Tamika?
What's that?
We had to turn you up.
Playing with the.
Oh, I already reserved the mats in Redfield room for you guys because the Festival of Trees doesn't set up in there.
Okay, perfect.
You're way ahead of us.
Is there anything else anybody can think about that we need to talk about? And Seth, do you think you guys are narrowing in on, I know this calendar or budget season?
Yep.
You kind of, where are we now out of whack, you think?
We're not out of whack as far as money wise or,
No.
or on calendar.
Time-wise.
Time-wise.
Oh, it goes the other way, yeah.
I'm just waiting for a couple boards and commissions to turn in their
Okay.
budgets, but that's not big dollar issues. I'm asking you, in what format would you like? Like, obviously, yes,
Oh.
but would you want each department on a separate tab? You just want it just the running master?
Like
Like
once
we
upon a
used-
time we used to do.
Karen,
What?
You have a current one, master.
Do you want that?
I would love to, because taking what, I don't want to recreate the middle.
Yes.
If you could share that.
And her Carol's, you
I'm-
like
I'm-
Carol's version?
It'll be.
I haven't seen Carol.
No rush. no
I
rush.
haven't seen Carol's version, but it's gonna be fine, because I'm sure it's very much like what we used to get.
Yeah, and then, you know, we'll put the department in class, and then we'll have your column, you know, whatever, we can format it any way you want, and then, there are parts that didn't follow the guidelines, obviously, but we're dealing with that, and, you know.
You were.
This, now, this is.
I just would like 1 year to say, I couldn't believe it. They all filled out the right paperwork. They all passed it in on time. Never happened.
Is this for November 20th you talking about or for the annual town meeting?
Annual town. Yes.
I have something to come on that. I don't want to make this longer, but, is the budget this year gonna be formulated before we get it that shows all the expenses, even though they may not be raised or they may come from some other account so that people could, they can see like position X is, I'm just gonna use a number, $2,000 raised and appropriate, but the other $2,000 to make the total of 4 comes from XYZ account. Or a department has certain amount of raise and appropriate numbers, but they also have an account they have every year that comes out of another account for other resources.
Be transparent. You've been doing it though.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to like,
On this,
give me an example of what.
Well, I can't think of one right at the very moment, but
Okay,
There's
so
several.
for instance, once upon a time, the director of dispatch salary was funded by the state 911. It really wasn't. So, but the
okay.
thing is I think we still showed it under director of dispatch, but it was
Gotcha.
up there. I think that's what you were
yeah,
talking
that's
about.
part of it.
Okay.
Yeah,
The other,
those
oh,
kinds
I
of things.
just thought of one.
Or like those 4 firemen that we got on
Yeah.
grant, those kinds of things.
Like the library has monies to operate,
Yeah.
and some of that comes from their trust fund or something. Or monies that are,
The thing in library aid.
and then they get state aid or
State aid,
something to
yes.
operate, well, that's, should be there, so you say, okay, this one is funded there, but the whole thing comes because they got that and that. And that part of it comes from whatever.
Okay.
I think
but
that's
you're doing it kind of now.
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest example you could really do it would be DPW, where they're separating staff over the utilities. Town's portion is 30%, you know, water sewer is 30%, storm waters, you know, whatever, you know, that you can take there, you know, because right now you're seeing it coming back through indirect charges.
Mhm.
But you could actually see it, you know, spread out of, this is the sum, but it's covered over something. You could do that.
Yeah, I just don't know how easy that's gonna be to see.
Okay, well,
We can look.
No,
at
that's what I'm saying, if we could do it, that'd be good,
But I think
if,
if we
Even if
go
you put-
back to that one big spreadsheet, I think it's easier to see, because then you have the one big spreadsheet at the top with all of the revenues. And you can kind of draw, this goes to here, this goes to here, funded, you can have an A, a B, a C, and it all ties out.
The accounting string should be similar, right? So you should, be if there's a salary line.
Yep.
For expenditure, that grant money should be an account string as well, right?
Correct.
And they
Yeah.
should
yes.
look
And
like.
so
each
what it
other.
should be is,
Like,
so if it's, you know, we put it under, you know, director salary here, and then on the revenue side, we say this is, you know, 8B, and you go to 8B, and here it is, and you can see that it's paid by state 911 grant. I think if you try to do that all in one big lump, I think it's gonna be,
Because even if you try to put a note on a cell, we're not gonna see it.
no, but you can put it so that you can say, see, sell, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah, blah, blah,
right,
see this, you know, that kind of thing.
I mean, because there's something like 260 line items.
Yep.
You know, in the budget.
It's a
so
mess.
It's, and then how many years do you want to go back to view? 23, 24, 25, or do you want to go back?
I think we went 3, but.
You want to go back to the red year?
I mean, truthfully, I'd like 5 for us, and then I think when we give it to the
Right,
town,
yeah.
we can decide on 3.
Yeah.
But that's me, because then we can
Well, then
kind
you
of see
see a
where it's
history.
grown. That way we can see where it's grown.
give them 1 year back, is all you need, what they had last year, and what are you doing this year?
We don't
That's
know
the way
if
it
we
always
can do
used to
3.
be, way back when.
Maybe not.
I don't know, because I always look at it as the more information you give.
Whatever
You
you put
think-
out on the ledger
Information
piece,
you
that you fish that you can see the numbers.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly, that's the
Without
kind,
squinting?
that's the kind of the way it
You
is.
feel 5 is good for you accountant type?
I mean, I can send you the whole Excel sheet with
Yes,
all of it.
yes, yeah.
You
And
guys
then when
like
it
5
turns
years
out that
back,
it's
you guys?
discussed.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you
Because
can hide numbers for.
But then, oh, yeah, high columns,
Yeah,
so
high
that
columns,
way
yeah,
you can
yeah,
fit on the
yeah.
page. But the best part is then we can actually go back and see it, and that's how we used to get it once upon a time.
I guess where I'm going with this is there's 3 of you that are really, really good with numbers and computers and stuff. If 5 years is what you want, that's what we'll get if you want.
I
3,
think
2, if you guys all agree.
we don't have to print it, we can just get
We
it
can
in
see
the
it on the
spreadsheet so
screen,
we can look at
Okay,
it.
so so,
I mean,
because I'm gonna be looking at your screen going, all right, where's that? Yeah, you know, so,
technically, it could go out
As many
50
years.
25 years, whatever, yeah.
but do we need it?
So what I'm gonna give you is whatever it was 21 or
21,
something
yeah.
like that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, those can be there. We can hide those.
Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. And then that way we've got,
The histories.
just so we can go back, so for us to discuss, it makes it a little bit easier to see, that's all. Cause that's what we used to get.
So when we were at the last the meeting to discuss the warrant. And we went through all these, you had supporting information.
Correct, yep.
So what are you, is that gonna be Article 1 and then the supporting information or the numbers under here, or are they gonna go to another?
So
What's
right
your
now,
format?
each department is their own tab. And it has their line items in it, and then if you scroll down under the line items, each line item is broken out with an explanation for each one. So that's how it's done by department right now.
Okay, and then the town meeting, you're gonna have the special town meeting on the 20th, you'll have backup for each.
The only thing you're gonna see is the warrant, there won't be, and you're just gonna see the number, you're not gonna see the breakdown.
Okay, no,
Yeah.
but you won't see the breakdown, but there'll be an explanation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
that
yeah.
stuff that you've done.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You know, you can't vote from
I
vacation,
can't, no,
just so you know. You can't vote for vacation.
I think you will work then.
no, it won't. Well, but maybe I'll get it here by then and I can be home now. Hey, anything else, guys?
Let me ask a question.
Go ahead.
So on the business here, number 2, special town meeting, right? Was there anything on this October 23rd that we talked about that we didn't finish? That we should finish? I don't remember it.
We finished everything. We had a vote and everybody,
Okay.
whether or not
I thought we did, but I just want to make.
the only one that we had, we changed it, and that was Article 6. We re-voted and we explained that. 11, Karen's gonna clarify for us.
Yep.
And
Okay.
so that it's out there. I don't remember anything else that was,
I don't either.
the only ones, yeah, we're good. I didn't,
We don't need a sleeping bag.
No, but we are probably gonna end up explaining a few more of these with a little more detail.
Well, that's
It's
not,
like-
that's not the, again, this is,
So-
it's not the motion document that people will
Exactly.
will have to read.
but there are gonna be some that are gonna be
Yeah.
a little bit more lengthy and explaining it, as Tommy said.
So since you're not going to be here, who will be the one that will
Ryan will
be
be there.
not, and that's just for the his. I mean,
Who's gonna speak on behalf of the town?
yes,
Yes, I will,
let me know.
I will let you know. I think I'll get Alex up to speed. He'll be the best financial person to
It
speak.
just was like, well, we need to have somebody that can answer the question.
Yeah,
You won't be at that
I will
meeting.
not get it. Not hunting with Darren.
He's going further south.
So I get 2 questions.
Big whip.
Yeah, I'll let you know if my kid makes it home on Tuesday. Change your mind, but, so on question 6. Assuming someone might ask, why did we, what does it mean that we made a motion to take no action?
Well, I've been asked that by a couple of town officials in Grove because I think we had a lot of discussion in between our boards, and one of the, how do I want to say this? It's getting,
Fiscally responsible,
yeah,
not fiscally responsible.
So why didn't we vote no?
Didn't we discuss letting the townspeople decide? We didn't
Yes.
recommend it, but. Town
Well,
decide.
that's what my take on it was. The selectmen said the same thing. They were gonna vote no, but they wanted to put it on the warrant so the people could
Yep.
discuss it and decide. And then my action, I mean, what you guys did.
Yep.
I mean, I think to leave that out in the whole big picture of things, that those numbers have been there for years and years and years and years, and to leave them out, it doesn't amount to a bump.
It's what, $7,000?
And
$75
that's why I've said I thought we should do it, but anyways, the vote was no action, only because, they didn't want to say yes or no.
and that's, I think we leave it up to the the taxpayers and the townspeople to figure it
And
out.
part of, if now, and this is I think tickling my memory that we also had discussed the fact that every other town employee was made to not that these were employees, but every town employee was made not to lose any salary, correct? That
Basically,
those-
yes.
Those were corrected, so we thought we would leave this up to the voters to decide.
And I think maybe if I'm reading between the lines, the bigger issue too is why are those people receiving a salary when there's probably just as many individuals on other boards and commissions and things that don't receive a salary. So I think it's a.
Which is a
bigger
way
issue.
longer ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
but
okay.
I think that might be what somebody thinks that they might want to look at again.
Article
Fine,
6
but-
refers to a
Yeah.
specific chapter master law
Yeah.
that are for elected officials.
So elected
No,
officials.
It's only for elected officials.
No.
Not-
It's
Yes.
just how
It's going
it's
to be.
written.
But there are towns around us that their
Correct.
finance committees get,
And that article has always been written around that master law to pay the salaries of elected officials.
With the ones that are other committees, the ones that don't get money, that's the way it's always been since the beginning. These have been, you can go back in dozens and dozens of town meeting years, and those numbers have been there. Those people are the ones that spend numerous nights out a week, every month, a lot of time.
I know 7 people that do the exact same thing.
I did, okay, so if you don't like the salary you get, then don't.
I'm afraid that they might push me into a new tax bracket, so I was a little concerned.
My point is, I took this job, I knew I wasn't getting paid for
Yeah.
it, right? So.
and we took it to help.
The other ones that we're talking about are the ones that say, well, I'm gonna help, but they're always done there, because, I mean, the way I look at this was, the nights they spend out, and I know over the years, I spent many a night out, but that little bit of money they got, they could probably take their family out for dinner once or twice to make up for the nights they're not at home. That's what it amounts to.
So I guess the answer to your question, Ted, is you're gonna have to try to, that we wanted the townspeople to decide.
That's basically what.
That's the way.
I can say that we were.
Because you are probably gonna get a question on that, right? And you have to just, that's the way you have to lead them down the primrose path and just say, that's what we.
Should I not say that we didn't even necessarily agree, or is that pointless to say? I mean, we were. pretty
If someone
split,
brings it
but
up,
we
they're
were-
not gonna see our vote. They're just gonna see,
They will
see
know.
no action. If you're prompted, you're gonna have to answer that, but,
And they may not even ask.
and they may not even ask, but if they do, there may be, I think you're gonna, like a sleeping bag, there's gonna be in order for this meeting, because there's gonna be we spent an hour and a half over one of the early ones.
I'm gonna
Should
get
address
something I've said a
this
couple of
town.
times
Yes,
now.
yes,
and
yes,
so
yes, yes.
I think the finance committee should be getting up on some of these and explaining, like the one last time about what do we have last year at the annual town meeting?
We spoke to,
The salaries or whatever it was.
or the,
School.
well, no, we spoke about the projections of the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Right, we should be up there saying a little more about it, rather than just say we're favorable, unfavorable. So they know what we're talking about. Oh, no, it was about the budget. We were unfavorable on it because we were gonna add some money to those numbers.
Yeah, but we also, and there were two things, because Alex
Right.
said the projections of the year.
Yeah.
I don't, we each can speak, yeah,
Except for
Absolutely.
you.
yeah. But I think that one of the things that, and Ted, Ted hasn't been up there and get in the firing line, but you can't get beat up, right? Because there's gonna be someone there that's gonna,
Ted, you'll get some help, don't worry.
well, that's what we gotta do. You gotta jump in and we all stick together and we're a team and we got a great team.
Right.
And everybody here at this table does a great job.
I got one more question.
Go ahead.
It's mostly for you. Could. And what do you think the likelihood is that the new town administrator comes in, doesn't like the calendar for the budget and decides they want to change it?
Select board set the calendar. It's at the timeline.
So it's unlikely.
Very unlikely.
Okay.
They have to make a good argument.
Well, they just.
I don't know if that, I don't know if that decision, I guess that, I don't think they could reverse that decision.
The budget calendar was set by the select board and we
Correct.
voted on it, right?
Mhm.
So there it is.
But he could not, or that person might not be favorable for the way it is, but
Right, he
you're
could
welcome
go,
to,
he could go back to the select board and say, look, I would like you to change this or something. They could do that.
Don't hire them.
I'm just, yeah, I mean,
and oh, and next week, just for everybody to know that on, this is the last couple of minutes, they're gonna have meetings next week with
Is it
the
Wednesday,
candidates.
Wednesday, Thursday?
Wednesday, Thursday, if you'd like to attend,
next Wednesday, Thursday?
yes. For there was 4 candidates, I think they're down to 3, because one was unable to follow up, so. Tamika, is there anything else we should talk about that you know of?
No, sir, I think you covered all the bases.
I,
And we're not striking out, we're making home runs.
if we, so our next meeting, we already know that, and town meeting, good luck. And I'm sure we'll have some discussion. If Ted needs it, has a question in between or that night, there's plenty of people here that have been here a long time, they can help them out. And, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Good for Tom. He didn't want to do it.